So when you hear Àròjọ Stephen, Àròjọ Peter, Àròjọ Jésù Olúwa, Àròjọ Amen. So yẹ kí èèyàn Àròjọ Mósè kò níyàwó kò lọ́mọ kò kẹ́rù ayé jọ kò lẹ́sẹ̀ irú ẹni lẹ́tún rojọ́ mọ́ kò láṣọ kò nílé kò kàwé kò nílẹ̀ ẹnu lẹ́tún rojọ́ mọ́.
There was a man in Nigeria, a man whose name everyone knows, a man whose church shaped the spiritual landscape of an entire continent. A man whose miracles are whispered about in marketplaces and told around fires and passed down through generations like sacred secrets. But there is something we do not know about him. There are things hidden, things buried, things that have never been fully revealed. His name was Moses Orimolade, and while the world remembers him as the founder of the Cherubim and Seraphim Church, as a saint of the highest order, as a healer and a prophet and a spiritual giant, the truth is far stranger than the legend. The truth contains mysteries that even his closest followers could not fully explain. It contains impossibility that break every law of nature. It contains secrets that have been locked away, waiting for someone to finally tell them. The miracles attributed to Moses Orimolade are beyond counting. There are countless testimonies, countless accounts, countless moments when those who knew him witnessed things that should not be possible. But there are 10 things, 10 specific things, 10 revelations about his life that most people have never heard. 10 secrets that will change the way you understand who he really was. This is Top 10 Yoruba. And today we are uncovering the 10 things you did not know about Moses Orimolade, the man who walked with mystery, the man who lived in miracles, the man whose very existence seems to defy explanation. Are you ready for the truth? Then let us begin. Number 10 carries a secret that shocked everyone who knew it. A choice he made that was so radical, so shocking, that it sets him apart from every other spiritual leader in history. He never married. Think about what this meant. Think about what it means to be a man in Yoruba land. A man of power. A man who is building something that will outlive him, and to choose not to marry. Not because you could not find a wife, not because you were rejected, but because you chose to give everything to God. He called himself a Iwonk for the sake of the kingdom. Those were his words. Those were his own words, describing himself. The Apostle Paul had done this before him. But Paul lived in a different world. Paul lived in a time when the church was new and everything was uncertain. Moses Orimolade lived in Nigeria. He lived in Yoruba land. He lived in a culture where a man's name lived on through his children, where your legacy was your bloodline, where marriage and family were not just personal but everything. And yet he walked away from all of it. He founded a church that would grow to become one of the most powerful spiritual movements in African history. He did it without a family to support him, to help him, to carry on his name. He was the only one of his kind. The only man in all of Yoruba church history to start something this massive, something this transformative, and do it completely alone. What kind of faith does that take? What kind of commitment to God causes a man to sacrifice not just his desires, but his entire future, his entire legacy, the continuation of his name through blood? The answer is a faith that is not human, a faith that belongs to something greater. But there is something else we do not know about him, something that contradicts everything we think we know about the church he founded. Number 9 is a secret that will shock you. It is about the very practices that people associate with the Cherubim and Seraphim Church. The rituals, the ceremonies, the traditions, the things that have become so connected to the church that people believe Moses Orimolade created them. But he did not. Most of the practices in the Cherubim and Seraphim Church today did not come from Moses Orimolade. They came after him. They were added after he was gone. And this is the crucial thing that has been hidden from us. This is the secret that nobody talks about. Moses Orimolade never used candles. He never lit a single candle during his entire ministry. He never told his followers to invoke the names of angels. He never taught them to call on Archangel Michael or Gabriel or any other celestial being. He taught them one thing and one thing only, the name of Jesus Christ. That was enough. He only wore white garment, not red ones for victory or blue for mercy. Just white garment. He was approached by his followers. They came to him and they said, "Moses, you should sell prayer water. People want to buy prayer water, blessed by your hands. People will pay for it. You could raise money for the church. You could expand your ministry. Sell them the water." And Moses Orimolade said no. He refused. He said the water was free. If God was going to heal through water, then God would do it because the power was in the water. And the power of God was not for sale. You do not put a price on what God gives freely. That was his conviction. That was his rule. He never took women to river and did rituals for their healing or deliverance or cleansing. He never carried an ark of the covenant up any mountain. He never built one. He never instructed anyone to build one. He never slaughtered rams or birds for deliverance ceremonies. He spoke the name of Jesus, and that was all. The church that bears his name today is not entirely the church that Moses Orimolade built. Some of what you see now, some of the practices, some of the rituals, they were added after he was gone. The question is, what was his vision? What did he really believe in? What was the truth underneath all of this? The answer lies in number 8. In something so impossible, so contradictory to the laws of nature, that when it happened, it shattered everything people thought they knew about death. 42 years. That is how long Moses Orimolade had been in the ground. 42 years since the day they buried him in 1933. 42 years of rain and sun and time and decay. In 1975, they decided to exhume him. His followers had been instructed by Moses himself before he died. When I am gone, he had told them, you will dig me up and you will rebury me in my hometown. It was a strange instruction, but they followed it, and when they opened the grave, when they pulled the earth away, when they saw what was inside, they could not believe their eyes. The body was fresh, not mummified by human hands, not preserved by chemicals or special burial techniques. Fresh, as if he had been buried days ago, as if time had simply refused to touch him. His clothing was white, pure white as snow, as white as the day it was placed on him. The witnesses were not simple people making up stories. One of them was I.K. Dairo. The I.K. Dairo one of the greatest musicians in Nigerian history, a man whose word would be believed across the nation, a legend. And Ike Dairo saw this with his own eyes. He witnessed it. He testified to it. What does it mean for a body to refuse to decay? What does it mean for flesh to remain fresh for 42 years in the ground? What does it mean that the one man in all of history we can point to and say this happened, this was witnessed by credible people, is the man we are talking about? The answer is that some people do not belong to death. But if that is true, then how did he even move through the world when he was alive? How did a body like that function? Number 7 contains a secret about his movement, about his journeys, about the impossible distances he covered on legs that did not work the way legs are supposed. In 1916, Moses Orimolade began his ministry. He was an evangelist, and for 8 years he walked. He walked across the entire country of Nigeria, 8 years on a crippled body, 8 years on legs that had been broken since childhood, 8 years traversing forests and crossing rivers and climbing mountains and walking through villages and towns and cities that had never heard the name of Jesus Christ. He walked from the north to the south. He preached as he walked. He healed as he walked. He performed miracles as he walked. And in 1924, after 8 years of walking the entire nation, he arrived in Lagos. In Lagos, in 1925, he founded the Cherubim and Seraphim Church. Number 6 is perhaps the most mysterious of all. It is about something that cannot be explained by any natural law. It is about speed that defied physics. It is about arrival that preceded departures. His followers noticed a pattern. They would travel with Moses Orimolade. They would walk together toward a destination, and then they would arrive and find him already there, waiting for them, already present, not just once, repeatedly, so many times that it became expected. How does a crippled man arrive before people who are walking with him? How does someone with a broken body outpace people who are younger, stronger, healthier? The answer is that the laws of movement that govern ordinary people did not govern him. Then something happened that took this from strange to undeniable. Some Europeans came to Nigeria. They came because someone in their country was sick, someone important, someone powerful, and they had heard that Moses Orimolade could heal anything. They came to Nigeria to find him and bring him back across the ocean. They offered him a plane. They said, Moses, come with us on this airplane. We will take you across the sea to heal our man. A plane that flies through the sky faster than any man could ever travel on the ground. And Moses Orimolade refused. He told them he would not ride the plane. He told them he would travel in his own way. He told them he would arrive before them. The Europeans thought he was insane. How could a crippled man traveling on foot possibly arrive before an airplane? But they had no choice. They took the plane. They flew across the ocean. They landed and they disembarked, and they wondered if Moses Orimolade would ever arrive, if he would make it, if the old man had been telling the truth or had been lost somewhere in transit. And they walked to the place where their boss was sick. And when they arrived, Moses Orimolade was already there. He was already waiting for them. The man they had come to heal was already healed, already whole, already standing before them as if he had never been sick at all. What do you call that? What name do you give to something that breaks every law of nature? The followers called it a miracle. And they were right. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how the world came to recognize him at all. How the church came to acknowledge him. Number 5 contains the answer to that question. It contains a secret about the title he was given that no one else in Yoruba history has ever received. He was declared a saint, not an apostle, not a pastor, not a prophet, not a bishop, a saint. In all of Yoruba church history, in all of the spiritual leaders who have come and gone, in all the men and women of God who have accomplished incredible things, there is only one who earned the title of Saint Moses Orimolade. Do you know what a saint is? It is not someone who does great things. It is not someone who builds a large church or heals many people or performs miracles. A saint is someone whose life itself is holy. Someone whose entire existence is dedicated to God. Someone who does not separate the public from the private, who does not change who they are depending on who is watching, who walks so close to God that the light of God becomes visible in every moment. Moses Orimolade did not just preach holiness. He lived it. Every single day, every interaction, every moment. There was no separation between the man people saw and the man he was when no one was looking. The consistency was absolute. The commitment was unwavering. But how did someone become like that? How does a person reach such a state of holiness? The answer might lie in number 4, in a secret that was hidden even before he was born, in a prophecy that predicted everything that would. The Ifa is the ancient divination system of the Yoruba people. It is the art of reading the future, of seeing what is coming, of understanding the will of the spirits before it manifests in the world. Moses Orimolade's father was an Ifa priest. He was a man of tradition. He walked in the ways of the ancestors. He understood the old gods. He understood the spirits. And yet his son would be born to do something completely different. His son would reject everything the father stood for. His son would walk in a direction that the father could never have anticipated. But before Moses was born, before he even existed, his father went to another Ifa priest, a diviner, someone who could read the future. And the Ifa made a prediction. The diviner said that a son would be born to this family. This son would walk a completely different path from his father. This son would not follow tradition. This son would not serve the old gods. This son would be a powerful man of God. This son would be known worldwide. Number 3 is about one of those moments. It is a story that seems impossible. A story that sounds like folklore or legend or myth. But it was witnessed. It was documented. It happened. He was alone in a church, a child, no one else around. And he was singing. He was singing hymns. He was singing praise songs. His voice alone, one small voice filling the space. But the church minister heard something different. The minister heard multiple voices. The minister heard a full choir singing in perfect harmony. The minister heard what should not be possible. When the minister went to find the source of this sound, when he went to investigate where this choir was coming from, he found only the child, only Moses, only one person. The minister asked him directly, "Who is singing with you? Who is the choir?" And the child answered, "We are." How does a child know to say we? How does a young boy understand that he is not alone, that something greater than himself is using his voice, is singing through him, is making music that human ears cannot fully explain? How does a child have the spiritual awareness, the understanding of the divine, to speak in the plural when only one person is present? The answer is that this child was never just one person. Something was moving through him from the very beginning. Something was speaking with his voice. Something was using his body as an instrument. But if that is true, if something supernatural was already present in him as a child, then what does that mean about his birth? What does that mean about the very moment he came into the world? Number 2 reveals something so strange, so unprecedented, that it terrified everyone who was present to witness it. He walked at birth, immediately after he was born, while he was still covered in the blood of childbirth. While his body was minutes old, the infant stood up, not just once, 3 times. The baby stood up and tried to walk 3 times. Think about what this means. A newborn cannot stand. A newborn cannot support its own weight. A newborn cannot move its legs in a coordinated way. A newborn is helpless. A newborn is vulnerable. A newborn cannot walk. But this newborn did. The family was terrified. They did not understand what they were seeing. They were frightened. They were confused. A baby did not do this. A baby did not stand. A baby did not walk. Something was wrong. Something was not natural. Something was not right. In their fear, in their desperation to make sense of what they could not understand, they took the child to a herbalist. Someone who could fix him. Someone who could make him normal. Someone who could prevent whatever was happening to him from continuing. And the herbals, or perhaps the father himself, used force to keep the child from walking. In trying to fix him, in trying to make him normal, in trying to prevent him from doing the impossible, they actually broke him. They damaged his legs. They left him crippled. The child who had stood at birth, who had tried to walk at birth, who had shown supernatural ability as his very first act of life, was now unable to walk. He would grow up with legs that did not function. He would live as a person with a broken body. He would know what it meant to be confined, to be limited, to be trapped. But one day, those legs would be healed. The man who had been crippled since birth would move with a speed that defied physics. The man who had been broken would become unbreakable. But the mystery does not end there, because there is something that happened even before he was born. Something that was witnessed before he even had a body to perform miracles with. Number 1 is the deepest secret of all. It is the thing that makes everything else make sense. It is the revelation that unlocks the entire mystery of who Moses Orimolade really was. His mother was pregnant with him. She was carrying him inside her body. She was in the early stages of pregnancy, the time when the child is not yet formed, when it is still becoming, when it is more spirit than flesh. One day, she went to the farm. She went to gather firewood. She gathered and gathered. She collected the wood. The load became heavy, heavier than her body could carry. The weight was crushing her. She was struggling under it. And then she heard a voice that came from inside her, a voice that came from the womb, a voice that came from the child growing inside her. The child spoke, and his mother heard him. He guided her to put the firewood gradually from one end, and the load of firewood that was crushing her was lifted easily. This child was sent. This child had a purpose that began before his birth and would continue long after his death. Everything that came after this moment makes sense now. The supernatural speed, the miracles, the healings, the way his body refused to decay, the way he changed the spiritual landscape of an entire continent, the way he lived so purely that he was declared a saint. He was never entirely human in the way we understand humanity. He was a vessel. He was a channel. He was someone through whom something greater than himself moved and spoke and acted. This is why we remember him. This is why his story has survived almost 100 years after his death. This is why people still whisper his name in marketplaces and tell his miracles around fires and pass his legacy down to children who have never met him and never will. Moses Orimolade was a man who lived in mystery. If this story moved you, if it made you question what you thought you knew, if it reminded you that there are mysteries in this world that our science cannot explain and our logic cannot contain, then share it. Tell someone. Pass it forward. Because the world needs to know that there are some people who do not belong to the ordinary. Some people who carry miracles in their very presence. Leave a comment, share this video, and subscribe to Top 10 Yoruba, because there is so much more of stories like this to uncover together. Stories that will change the way you see the world. Stories that will make you believe in the impossible.